The night before the wedding was supposed to be a celebration, a gathering of families and friends under strings of soft white lights, but the entire air shifted the moment the insult fell from the groom's mouth. It tore through the hall like a blade, slicing into the heart of the quiet maid who had spent her life hiding in corners and swallowing pain. And before anyone else could breathe, before shame or shock could settle, a chair scraped violently across the floor and the Mafia boss, stone-hearted, feared, respected, rose with an expression so lethal that even the music died. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment the man who never stepped into other people's wars declared one without hesitation. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength of standing up for someone who can't stand for themselves, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this to life. Her name was Alina. She was 22, soft-spoken, gentle, and the kind of girl whose eyes carried stories she never dared to voice. She had been working in the grand estate of the DeSantis family for 4 years, ever since her mother passed away and debts began piling up like stones on her chest. The job wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and for a long time, she believed that was all she deserved. She was the house's invisible force, the one who made beds before sunrise, cleaned chandeliers while everyone slept, and left rooms smelling like lavender and quiet effort. The groom, Marco, was marrying the boss's cousin the next day, a lavish wedding arranged to align two powerful families. He walked through life with the confidence of a man who believed he owned every room he entered. And maybe he did, until that night. Because his mistake wasn't insulting just any maid, he insulted her. The one person the boss, Lorenzo DeSantis, had been silently watching for years, the girl whose kindness had carved unexpected softness into him, the one soul he believed didn't belong in a world full of cruelty. The insult hadn't been loud, but it had been pointed. Alina had been adjusting the floral spread on the reception table when Marco, impatient and mildly drunk, snapped at her and called her something that didn't belong in the mouth of a groom. Something that hit her like a slap and left her frozen with humiliation. She didn't look up. She had trained herself not to. Shame was easier to carry when her eyes stayed on the ground. But Lorenzo heard. And Lorenzo never forgot a tone, a word, or an affront, especially not when it was directed at someone who had done nothing but give her best every day without expecting anything in return. The hall went silent. People stopped mid-laugh, mid-sip, mid-breath. Even Marco, who moments ago seemed unstoppable, felt the shift as the Mafia boss crossed the marble floor with slow, terrifying calm. Lorenzo's steps were the kind that announced consequences long before his voice ever did. Alina felt the heaviness before she saw him. And when she finally lifted her eyes, she found herself staring at the man she had always tried to avoid, not out of fear, but out of reverence. He had a presence that could drown a room, but tonight there was something different. Something personal. Something dangerous. Lorenzo's voice was low, steady, but sharp enough to cut glass as he asked, "Is this how you respect her?" The words didn't echo, they stabbed. And the hall trembled because everyone knew Lorenzo only asked questions when the answers determined someone's fate. That night didn't end with laughter. It ended with whispers, shock, and the unmistakable realization that something deep, powerful, and entirely unexpected had just begun. Over the next days, Alina found herself caught in a strange, confusing storm. The boss started noticing her more, her exhaustion, her silent endurance, the way she worked even when fear or pain flickered across her face. He noticed when she limped slightly up the staircase, when she blinked away tears after a phone call from the bank, when she skipped her own meals to make sure events ran smoothly. She never asked for help, but her struggles were loud to someone who had carried his own burdens for years. Lorenzo had always believed power was a shield. But watching Alina, this fragile girl who moved like she was trying not to disturb the world, made him realize that strength wasn't loud. Strength was silent, tired, and still moving. And he found himself wanting to shoulder the weight she had carried alone for far too long. But whispers grew louder. People questioned why the boss took interest in a maid. Why he defended her. Why he stepped in when Marco complained privately about the humiliation he had faced that night. Lorenzo didn't care for opinions, but Alina did. And she began retreating deeper into herself, convinced she was becoming a burden. Her breaking point came one evening when she found an eviction notice taped to her small apartment door. No warnings. No extensions. She stood there, in the dim light of the balcony hallway, shoulders trembling, hands pressed against her mouth. Everything she had tried so hard to keep from collapsing finally did. In that moment, she felt like a life that simply existed to endure. Nothing more. That night, Lorenzo showed up at her door. She tried hiding the notice. Tried hiding her tears. But he had lived too long in a world where people wore masks. He knew the real face of suffering when he saw it. He didn't demand answers. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stepped closer and told her, in a tone she had never heard from him before, that she didn't need to fight every battle alone. That she didn't deserve to be silenced by life. That the world might have overlooked her, but he hadn't. She cried, not because she was weak, but because someone finally saw her. Over the next weeks, Lorenzo quietly, subtly helped her stand back on her feet. He arranged discreet financial support through the household account, ensured she had safer hours, gave her time off, and protected her from every corner of the estate that had once intimidated her. Alina didn't ask for any of it. But she accepted the help with gratitude so sincere it softened even the coldest corners of his world. Yet the universe wasn't done testing them. Marco, humiliated and bitter, tried to twist the story. He accused Alina of manipulation, hinted at inappropriate closeness, and goaded others into turning the blame onto her. Rumors spread like wildfire, rumors that threatened her job, her safety, her dignity. And when Alina heard the whispers, she folded in on herself again, whispering apologies she didn't owe and shrinking from rooms that once welcomed her presence. When Lorenzo found out, the storm that rose in him was unlike anything the estate had seen. He confronted Marco publicly during a family gathering, repeating that same devastating question, "Is this how you respect her?" But this time, he didn't stop at words. He defended her openly, fiercely, tearing down every rumor with truth, turning every accusation back onto the man who had started it. In front of the entire family, the Mafia boss made it clear that Alina was under his protection, someone he valued, someone he trusted, someone he refused to lose. And in that moment, the world finally saw what he had known all along: Alina wasn't just a maid. She was a woman who carried strength in silence, resilience in her scars, and a heart that had survived storms no one else could see. Their bond grew not from romance, not from drama, but from two broken people recognizing the quiet power in each other. He found peace in her gentleness. She found security in his strength. And slowly, their lives intertwined in ways neither had planned but both deeply needed. When the wedding day finally came, Marco's role had changed. After his actions were exposed, the bride, Lorenzo's cousin, called off the marriage. No power, no family influence could fix what had been lost. And Alina, standing in the corner as she always did, realized that for the first time, she wasn't invisible. People looked at her with respect, real, earned respect. But the moment that changed everything came after the ceremony was cancelled. Lorenzo approached her quietly, offering her a small, genuine smile, something rare, something precious. He told her she deserved better than a life lived in fear, in shadows, in silence. He told her she had given him a reason to believe kindness still existed in a world that had long forgotten it. And for the first time in years, Alina felt seen. Valued. Safe.